Hey, everybody. Today I'm talking with Heather-Ann Ferri, whose life has moved through performance, trauma, healing, voice, and spiritual practice in a way that is anything but ordinary. Heather-Ann began as a tap dancer with tap legend Jimmy Slide, giving her a stage and helping open the door to her career. Her story also includes severe childhood trauma, illness, abandonment, and a long healing path that brought her into speaking, storytelling, and the work she now does around voice, nervous system repair, ancestry, and inner child healing. Now, what I'm interested in today is not just how Heather Ann has survived, but how she found her way back to the stage with something honest to say. So, Heather Ann, how the heck are you?
I'm doing well today. That was a wonderful introduction. You've done your homework. Thank you so much for that.
Absolutely. And it seems like whatever we discuss today is going to keep leading us back to the stage somehow. And
Yeah.
the stage has really been your place to shine, embody everything about your story, and create something that impacts others. Is that fair?
Oh, that's so fair. And just meeting you, really? I mean, we had a pre-interview type thing, but this is wild because the stage was the only place that was safe as a child, so it became sort of a playground for me. It was the most comfortable place to be.
I did some children's theater as a kid,
Mm.
and I've done professional speaking for some 20 plus years. So that's been my outlet. I'm very curious to hear how you found yourself to this age in the first place with all this chaos that was happening in your life.
Well, my parents were incredible social dancers. They married as high school sweethearts, and yeah, a lot of trauma happened around 7, 8, 9 years old for me. That was pretty traumatic. But my mom loved to dance, and so I was in dance classes 24/7. And because I was so good at it, it sort of was like in my brain as a child, I equated it to, well, this is how I'm going to get love from her because she was so abusive behind closed doors, verbally and physically attacking me and, life-threatening stuff. So it was sort of like, uh, children are very smart and they're very resilient. And so for me, it was assessing, okay, I'm in danger. I'm really good at this thing on stage, especially tap dancing and choreographing. So I'm going to just do it nonstop. And that became sort of my OCD, and it was my playground. And I'm grateful for all the lessons in that. I didn't have a normal childhood, and I definitely didn't have nurturing parents. I was on my own in some ways, surviving brain damage and a lot of infections all day long, over medicated from age 9 to 16, and never spoke a word in the house, never spoke a word outside of the house, was just terrified. You know what I mean? So it has been a long journey. So dance was the escape.
Right? So dance was something that was just kind of native to you. It was just kind of there. You felt compelled to do it and kind of started
Well,
doing it on your
yeah,
own.
I was going to dance classes. So I'm training in ballet, jazz, tap dancing. And so I learned discipline, I learned structure. And I think those are very important keys because that's how I become what some would call a trauma expert later on. Because if you don't have discipline, you're not going to be able to rewire your brain. You have to sit there and meditate and feel the pain. So all those skills from my ballet dance teachers and tap teachers were very important because back then it was, if you don't show up on time for class, you don't take class. It's not like today where everybody feels entitled to things. I studied back in the day where I was studying with really master teachers. And so, that was in one sense a benefit to my parents because that's the only thing they could give me. You know what I mean? Like there was nothing else they could give me at the time,
They
so
had nothing of themselves to give you,
right,
so they
right.
had to give you dance classes.
Yeah, so that's how that began. And then I started performing professionally at 17 with all the theme parks, which was a great paying job back then. And it was 6 shows a day, so you're learning how to withstand not getting injuries, so you have to have good technique, not getting vocal injury as well. And then I got a partial scholarship to Point Park University in dance. And then I studied a little bit at Carnegie Mellon. And I was just full blown in the arts studying anything I could that made me uncomfortable, um, because I couldn't face my family. I couldn't face the abuse. So at least I could do that.
So where was your dad in all this?
My father had a lot of childhood abuse and generational abuse, masked it up. So he was a lot known as the jokester to the public. People loved him. Behind closed doors, he was very depressed, aloof, and he was medicated when I was about 7 years old because he lost a job with his family business. His father fired him. So my father was really not there. He was in the house, but not there. You know, those characters, just
Oh
not
yeah,
there.
I was raised by one of those.
Yeah, and my mother screamed at him every day. There was nothing he could do that was good enough. So he was being mentally and emotionally and spiritually abused, as well as me. And, you know, I would say my brother, I can't speak for my brother, but, so she was sort of this martyr, dictator, rageaholic, which, is surprising because, you don't always think of women being that in a household. She was a very beautiful woman. But when that mask came on, I call it the, sort of entities possessed, programming, it was very, very scary.
That's my wheel is just spinning here. Empathizing with your situation, you finding your escape on the stage in dancing. It's almost like a double life of sorts, would you say?
Oh, absolutely. Oh,
And
absolutely. So nobody ever really knew me is the key. And when I was being, just to prepare the audience a little bit, about was being choked by my mother in the mornings, her hands behind my neck, trying to take my life, screaming at me. There was a point where I sort of took an inner vow, and I've just started speaking about this because the journey is deep for me. Healing
Mhm.
ancestral traumas, healing is sort of the name of the game in my life, in this life, for me. I took a vow as a child to sort of hide my spiritual mystical gifts, my light, because people would ask me on podcast interviews recently and also in therapy, and they would ask, did you do something to initiate the first attack? And I really didn't. I was this innocent, pure-hearted little girl who loved her family. All I did is I was joy and light. And that's where I
Gonna
really feel
say,
my
with
mom
all due
was.
respect, that's a rotten question. Because the only contribution you made to the first attack is that you were present.
That's exactly it.
You were the one she decided to unleash on. She projected something on you that
Yeah.
made you responsible in a way that you never could have been.
That's exactly it. I think it's an interesting question, though, because it made me have to sit through the whole energy and realize it was my light. And I go through that through my adulthood too, through different businesses and tribes where people are threatened by my love and light. It's not fake. I mean, I've done a lot of healing work on my own. So the tools that I give my clients, I've done. I've taken off time and I've spent 7 days a week, 8 hours a day doing my own healing work, fasting, writing, rewiring. So I walk the walk. And I think people know that, they can feel that. But at the end of the day, I'm always like, it's in my being to be a good human being. But I also feel that, like with my mom, there's possessions, entities, the devil, whatever you want to label that. I'm not religious, but I do believe that that exists and it can come at you. So I think, over the years, I have found that in other groups too. Like, I'm not doing anything, but I'm being targeted, you know? And
Well, people, unfortunately, when they see somebody that's done the healing, somebody who's comfortable being vulnerable, honest, can lead with compassion, if they're so used to people that are two-faced, that are, they're backstabbing, whatever, they find us suspicious. They think we're up to something.
that's exactly right.
And our only real responsibility in those moments is just be ourselves when we show up. Just be human. Don't think you need to explain yourself to these folks or convince them
Right.
because we're not in the business of convincing. We're in the business of showing up.
That is a beautiful phrase. And it took me a while. I was a people pleaser. It took me a while to learn discernment. It also, I think the people pleasing and the over giving was a part of the wiring I had to heal within myself ancestrally with a lot of the women in my bloodline. And part of that healing was being with myself in silence, which was uncomfortable at sometimes because I wasn't escaping into the stage or the sugar or being in groups and just talking about stuff that doesn't matter. I was spending time with myself. And I think sometimes that's the scariest homework assignment you can give somebody.
Absolutely. I just wrote about this, in fact, because we are taught that looking at ourselves means being self-critical.
Yeah.
You better sit there and punish yourself and feel as guilty as I want you to feel about something.
Yeah.
And when we do spend enough time with that self-critical voice, we realize that it's a mistaken decision we've made about ourselves
Yeah.
based upon the impact around us, our parents being harsh and cruel and abusive. And then we take on the role of people pleaser because we got to keep the peace if we are going to prevent this from happening again.
Right.
Man,
Right.
if that doesn't hijack our entire worldview, huh?
Absolutely. Beautifully said. And, you know, for me, for those who are out there who are on this journey, you know, the good parts of spending time with myself and being uncomfortable and writing and reading and triggering and meditating is that I'm at peace now. I know immediately when to just walk away. I know my discernment. I spend a lot of time with myself and I enjoy it. You know, nature, I love animals and my life just keeps transitioning into just a beautiful love story of myself.
Just continuing to peel those layers, and man, they're endless, aren't they? You're always
Yeah,
finding
there
a new
there
thing.
there are more than I had expected, to be honest with you. When my father passed in 2022, I went through another sort of spiritual awakening or hitting rock bottom when I thought, you know, I mean, sometimes you think, okay, I've done all this work, it's done. And it's like, oh no, there's another
Yeah,
layer. Like,
my
wow.
mom passed, I think, in 22, and I didn't realize just how toxic she'd been to me until I no longer had to defend her and the
Wow.
relationship. And stuff came to the surface, and I had some ugly cries that I wet a bath towel with how much was coming out.
Good.
But as I'm sure you experienced, there's this clarity on the other side of it
Yes.
that you didn't know was there, but it's like someone removed stained glasses.
Yeah, my father's death was intense for me on a lot of levels because he wasn't there for me. He didn't defend me. But also what happened is I started to hear him on the other side, which I did not plan. And so this sort of psychic medium, which I don't promote, but sort of started to develop within me. And at first I was like, get out of here. You know, I don't want nothing to do with you. You're going to talk to me now that the tribe's not here. Oh, the security of your masks, you know, and I was just at it. I was voicing to him and it was a slow process, but he guided me to some new healing tools. And we slowly healed, and he slowly started to show me sort of this bigger picture of our relationship that was really deep and mystical and spiritual. So he actually, when he was alive, did introduce some of the healing tools to me, which was kind
Hmm.
of unique because he was a blue collar worker in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, not the type that you would think. But so he would kind of hand me a tool and then like check out, you
Can you give me
know?
an example of one?
Yeah, this is like over 28 years ago. So in Pittsburgh, the word yoga, Kundalini yoga didn't really exist. It started after that. He had hurt his rotator cuff during construction, and his physical therapist at the time was studying Kundalini yoga. And my dad is a really interesting character type. You know, people love him. They just didn't see the other side behind closed doors, the pain, the depression, the not having a voice. You know, not, you know, just so much traumas. But anyway, this physical therapist was like, I would love to do these sets to help with your diabetes. And he offered to do them because he was training for free. And my dad did them privately. He didn't want anybody to know he was chanting or doing breath work. But I came home from New York City and he pulled me into the office and I thought, oh, this is going to be another family story or something's coming up. And he taught me my first meditation. And I went back to New York, and that's when I found a Kundalini yoga class. Well, I started studying Kundalini yoga, got certified in that, but it's really where then I branched off later on into these sacred brain programs that aren't really being used in mental health with this psychiatrist that branched off. He did a lot of clinical studies, but never did teacher trainings with it. Long story short, that became my niche in my trauma coaching program. People came all over the world for these brain programs because they were different from everything you were hearing on mainstream. But it wasn't just about that. I used them. I used the
That
PTSD brain protocol. I used the childhood trauma brain protocol. I used the ADHD, which I would never have said I was ADHD, but my dad on the other side was like, you have dyslexia and ADHD for me. And he was right.
well, hallelujah! I got dyslexia and autism from my dad and ADHD from mom. So now they must be related somehow. Some
Well, yeah,
20th
these
generation.
traits, these behavioral patterns, these belief systems that you don't even know are ingrained in you come from your lineages. And it's deep. It's not surface level. I mean, you can start to pick apart behavioral patterns, but it's harder to pick apart deeper energetic belief system patterns that he really wanted me to break to have a very different future. And it has been a tough few years. I'm not going to lie about that. But I am so blessed. Like my health, my state of mind, and my sort of healing with him on the other side has been a beautiful dance in essence for me. And part of that dance is learning to say no. I had to walk away from a lot of people too. That's why he didn't protect me. So now he had to step in and say, you need to say no. You need to get away from this group. You need to get away from that group. He was developing me into what I would imagine to be leadership, which is not something that I grew up, anybody would even look at me and say, you're a leader. And not even in my community, with some of the things that I'm doing, or your leader. But when I look at my resume and I look at my actions, I'm like, you know what? I'm a leader.
You're a leader simply in that you take those risks that other people are afraid to. And
Thank
they
you.
see you doing it, and it's your modeling that makes you a leader because you go first. You
Thank
take
you.
those chances, and
Right.
people don't realize that it's not always the one with the microphone or the megaphone or the C-suite title. Leaders are people that other people aspire to be. I want to do that too. I like the results Heather-Ann got. I want to find out how she did that.
Mm.
Now, one thing I'm interested in is how did all of this come together and show up on the stage?
Well, there's a new stage forming. I'm writing some stuff now, so that it's going to be interesting to go back on the stage because I. So one of the things in my showbiz career in my 20s, early 30s is I was doing a lot of Broadway, off Broadway touring with shows, musicals people probably heard of, but I kind of got tired of the roles I was being casted in, right? And so I started to write shows off Broadway, off Broadway, specifically for women to have voices. And then my last show in New York City was a one woman show. And then when I came back to Pittsburgh, I was retiring and I was going to do another career um, because I was kind of fed up with show business at the time. I was then asked by the Pittsburgh Civic Light Opera to do a one woman show. And so I did that on the Tap Dance Masters. And then I fell into sickness and I fell into trauma for 18 years and I fell into, all that stuff. So now I'm venturing in, now I'm bridging all that theater arts, dance, music, singing, and trauma experiences from having so many people, across from me, as you can imagine, and my own experiences and writing a show. So, I feel that when I get on the stage to do specifically my own work, it's an activation for the audience to have a healing experience because they are experiencing the authenticness of a healer who has healed and is now transmuting that and sending that signal out to awaken the souls to upgrade in wherever level they are at through storytelling, through my voice. It's interesting because since my dad died, I'm writing music, singing, and I never thought I would do that. So, you know, you're never too old to start something new. You're never too old to, it's that journey for me. I love singing. And it's interesting because I was a workaholic in trauma, working with clients 24/7, neglecting myself, my dreams. Um, and I remember clients saying, "Oh, do you have a CD because your voice is so calming? Do you have a CD?" And then when my dad was dying, I sang for him. And I sang for my mom. And I'm really proud of how I showed up unconditionally for him, even though he hadn't for me. That was a really conscious decision for me. It's not for everybody. It's just something that I decided to do. And so, yeah, and when, you probably understand this more, but in the professional speaking world, I like to cut barriers because as much as I want to prepare a talk, there is a specific audience that shows up for you. And when you're intuitive like myself, and I've done improvisation, I have this huge toolkit, I have to make sure that toolkit gets to them. And it may be another toolkit. It's like when a client sits in front of me, I can't just do the same thing over and over again. They're a unique print. So that's why I have some sciences. Oh, no, they need this brain protocol. Oh, no, they need the water. Oh, they need physical movement, breath work. That's the mastery of this. So in public speaking, it's tough sometimes because I want to show that interaction more. That's my audience. Oh, I'm feeling this. So I'm going to tell these stories. I'm going to do this breath work. I'm going to activate these, in this way. And I think we're moving more and more into that with speaking. They want more authenticness than just scriptedness. You know what I
Thank
mean?
goodness for that, because each room has a different vibe.
Exactly.
And when you can feel that, it gives you a sense of, I was going to start with that story, but I think I'm going to start with this one. This is the one that feels more top of mind and
And I
needed.
used to do that in my workshops with yoga and meditation, and the intuitiveness became natural for me. And so, one of the challenges I will say with professional speaking is sticking to the script at times when you know that, like, you get into the room or you feel it and you're like, oh no, this audience really needs this. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's like, I really want to pull from this library. And so that takes bravery in event planners. That takes bravery and people assessing who they're putting on stages and why. What is the result you want when you put somebody on a stage? Because for me, too, when it comes to speaking, I want to speak, but then I want to train or I want to give a workshop afterwards. I want to give an experience of a tool. I'm big on tools because I had so many tools. And it wasn't just one tool. I wish it was. People are like, if you could make that magic pill, you would be rich. You know what I mean? Like, but I can't.
Well, and like you've discovered, I'm sure it's you can dump 20 skills into a person's brain, for an hour presentation, or you can give them an experience, an
Mhm.
interactive experience that creates a shift that is going to carry them hopefully for the rest of their lives. And that's maybe through a couple stories, through a couple exchanges, and it's not necessarily through any of those skills that you just dumped into their head.
You're
And there,
exactly right. And it's also energy healing because I'm an energy healer. Like people just start to either heal or get triggered, and both are good. I wasn't used to the triggering. Now I realize I do like that light thing again, that unconditional love can trigger people. But you're right. And it sets the stage for people when they open up to, I'm going to read this book, or I'm going to go to this location, or I'm going to, through the experience of that. It may not even be any of my tools. It may be a completely different tools when you leave, as well.
when you show up unconditionally and you don't want anything from the person, that's one of the things that really throws them and can give them an epiphany that, hey, it's possible to have a relationship with someone where I'm not always having to pay them back just to be good to me.
It's yeah.
And that's one of the ways that we can show up for people that gives them hope that there are people out there who are not going to screw them over or have another agenda. And
Right.
by showing up that way consistently, not perfectly, because we're going to have our human moments, showing up that way consistently, that changes how people feel about what's possible. And I get the sense that that's something that you really do to impact people.
I do that naturally. You know, I I am naturally just a giver because it feels good actually to give.
Mhm.
So I'm one of those people that will have little angels in my car wrapped up. And if I have this beautiful encounter with somebody, I'll say, "Can I give you something?" I'll give them an angel. It's that is like second, like that's normal to me all day long. What I've found though in the last couple years is that some people take those gifts for granted, and that's not for me to decide, but I've learned that. And I've also learned that I am now in the stage of receiving. It's important for me to receive as well. And I think for women in particular that tend to overgive or give, and I mean it's genuine when I give now, but I don't give as much as I used to. I get the download or the little, this feels right to give this. And then I give it over, not wanting anything back, obviously, because it means I'm getting joy and I'm hoping to inspire that person that I see potential and light. But I guess what I'm saying, it would shock people at how little I've been given. And I'm not saying that to complain, but I am saying that as truth because what I have started to reevaluate in my relationships is there needs to be a give and take.
Yeah. Healthy reciprocity as opposed to
Personally,
that
so you
transactional,
you
right?
need to really look personally at your life and say, is this a give and take? And be honest with yourself. And for me, I had to be honest with myself and release a lot of people and grieve at the fact that I I wasn't receiving anything but always overflowing. And at some point, my father was like, "You deserve to receive."
Getting to the point where you can set boundaries, which in itself is a superpower and probably one of the greatest acts of self-respect and self-love.
Yeah.
How do you get to a point where you can set boundaries after being raised in an environment where you are basically taught that you don't have value?
Right. Good way of putting it. For me, it took being screwed over enough to
Get set
finally
up?
be fed up, especially with my family. It was my dad's funeral experience for me personally that nobody reached out, nobody asked questions, there was no cards, there was even nobody addressing me at the funeral. It was like I didn't even exist, and that's probably shocking for people because they're like, "Oh, she's so nice, she's successful," and it's like, yeah, I am. But there's a lot of what you just said from my family environment. My father and my mother trained a family system to ignore my cry for help. They trained a system around me to they ignored me. And so there's consequences to that within your personal life. And so for me, it was just getting fed up and feeling I'm not going to feel this anymore. I'm going to value myself enough to know even I have to walk alone. I'm going to be happy walking alone. And I have walked a lot alone. And I am happy. And I'm very spiritual. Like some people may think it's woo woo. It's not woo woo. I have angels. I feel the divine with me. I feel God. I feel protected now. But I went through a lot of obstacles because I was trying to fit in places that I shouldn't have to try.
Yeah, and the family can be really ostracizing when you decide to break the cycle. I'm
Oh,
not
oh,
playing by those
yes.
dysfunctional rules anymore. And they make you feel like, oh, we're ashamed of you. How dare you? We don't know who you are anymore. And they're
Well, the
just trying
thing
to
is
sabotage you back into your place.
well, the thing is my father introduced me to a few words when he passed away, psychopath, which I didn't know, I didn't know what that was, which is probably my mom was borderline. And then scapegoat. I'm the scapegoat.
Yeah, the one who feels is the one who has the problems.
Yeah.
So how has this, because you talked about your work, but I'm really fascinated to hear how it is you do this for people. help them regulate their nervous system. What does that process look like?
A lot of people that come to me, they have probably labeled health issues. I would say in a lot of my career, even though I call myself a trauma expert, most people had health issues. They might have been labeled PTSD or OCD, mental health issues, but they never equated it to childhood abuse or generational abuse, which is fascinating. And I worked with 60% medical field, meaning doctors, naturopaths, physical therapists. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that was God led because God was showing me how they were trained or not trained. Also, I was really angry at the medical field. I mean, they overlooked me. I was over medicated from age 9 to 16. Nobody saw that my face looked like I had a massive stroke. I mean, I was really angry at how negative when I was 18, 20 years old, the medical field was with my blood work. There was no positive, you do this. So I was the rebel. I was fed up with the labels. I was fed up with the pills. So when clients come to me, they've done everything under the sun. They've done everything in Western. They've even done everything in holistic, and they're still seeing patterns. And I would say I'm more of getting to the roots of things. And what nervous system means is it means retraining. So it doesn't happen in an energy healing session. I can help you feel great that day, but you're going to go home and you're still going to have behavioral patterns, and they're around your breath. They're around your voice. And so what I love about my work is it's kind of like when you think of a martial arts master, they don't become a martial arts master in a day, but there are steps. And each step that teacher takes them, they become a master, but they have to follow the rule book. And so with my clients, there is a specific, steps we're taking. One of them may be, Brian, just simply looking at their medical records and everything that they have done. I may have to detox them first. I may have to detox the food they eat and the water they drink. Because if they're drinking parasites and they're eating food that has a lot of glyphosate in it, is that the problem? Or is
It's
it, or
amazing
is
how
it
much that's an afterthought for some people still.
Yeah. Or is it OCD? I don't know yet. So I started to learn before doing medical meditations. I got to make sure their lifestyle patterns have some sort of balance, that they're not the sugar addict that I was, because that's just numbing your frontal cortex of the brain. So you can't remember anything. So that's where more scientists came involved. So breath work isn't just, I'm going to do one nostril breathing. Breath work is understanding what you're looking for in your breath because it's your teacher, and understanding the muscles engaged. So the one thing I offer, and I'm really grateful to be on this platform, is my YouTube channel. I have 2 free courses. They're absolutely free. All you need is a notebook and a pen and discipline. And the first course is 9 videos on breath work for leaders, which you're leading your own life and dealing with the nervous system. And this is teaching you. So you're writing notes so that when you do one nostril breathing, you start to pay attention to what you need to pay attention to. And you start to understand what psychology you're trying to figure out with give and take and how your breath is working. And when you're opening up the left nostril, it's dealing with one part of the brain. When you're opening up the right. So I don't just do a regular yoga class. I never did. I was a teacher. And the second free playlist deals with breath work for stress, emotional pain, and trauma. And it's just the beginning. These prep you for the brain work, the sacred brain work I do with rewiring PTSD, OCD, and ADHD, which takes about 3 months of good discipline. 3 months is not a long time. What happens with people when they start breathing and chanting and using their fingers like a piano, but finger placements to rewire the brain, and they're doing this on a regular basis 3 or 4 times a week with their homework, after 3 months, they are in their bodies in a way that they can't really explain to me or anybody else because it's different. I remember the more I shook out trauma, I was like, oh, I'm not thinking 24 thoughts all the time. Oh, my body is relaxed. Is this what it feels like to be
Yeah,
relaxed?
this is calm. Are you sure?
Yeah. I mean, it's for each individual. You can't describe it for them because they're unique. And for me, it was layer after layer. And I always try to use my example because I think it's important to follow a teacher that practices what they preach. I've reversed my red blood cell disorder. So I no longer have it with blood work. I have reshaped my structure of my bones. So being a professional dancer, I know the body. And now I have more flexibility in my hips and my ankles because of the release of trauma. And these things can happen quickly for people with an expert. And I am that, and it's it's just something that I had to do for myself. Healing has been a 24/7 educational process for me. And now I really love sharing it with those who show up because you and I know when people heal more, when they understand more about themselves, their breath, they're understanding more about childhood pain, they become more a part of society. And we need that now. We need more community. We need more leaders in our community right now who have good hearts. And those are the people I call to do the playlist, to become a part of this community. You know what I mean?
People who aren't actively contributing to the suffering of the world. Because
Yes.
the people that are unhealed are the ones that keep adding scars and new injuries. Not because that's what they set out to do, but because that's their current way of seeing life and their role in it. But I got to tell you, Heather, and your work is so beautifully comprehensive. You check all the boxes in a way that Western medicine just isn't trained. Can
Thank
I
you.
throw a pill at it? No, okay, more tests until I find something I can throw a pill at, and then come back and see me in 6 weeks or whatever it is. So I'm so thrilled that I get to share your story and what it is you're doing with people, because for so many of us, neurodivergent and the trauma that comes along with a non-accepting society, that's stuff that people underestimate just how much that contributes to our challenges. And
Right.
by unpacking that trauma, we get to realize that there's so much more of us, our humanity underneath all that. And I'm grateful that you are out there giving people a path. That is so fantastic. So thank you so much, Heather-Ann, for this beautiful conversation. I really appreciate you.
Oh, Brian, thank you so much. It's wonderful to have been heard and to have a voice. And I just send blessings to everybody that listens to us on this channel and this conversation.
Amen to that. Take care, everybody.